minutes, guys, I want to talk about some qualitative implications of impulse, not the mathematics of impulse, not calculating the impulse or calculating the force of impact or something like that, but rather just qualitatively analyzing problems and seeing why force is sometimes big and sometimes small, or how exactly we can use this principle of impulse to protect ourselves against an impact, let's say. Or how it is that if you want to hit a baseball a long way, how it is that you hit a baseball a long way. There are two general situations that we can analyze qualitatively using impulse. The first situation is when we are stopping an object. When we stop an object, I like to say that it has a predetermined impulse. What I mean by that is that the impulse is going to be what it is. We have no control over it. Let's think about that for a second. A car is traveling down the highway. It has a certain mass and it has a certain velocity. There is one thing that we know for certain. One thing, that's it. One thing that we know for certain. We know what the impulse of that car is going to be. It's got a certain momentum, and at some point down the road, it's going to have zero momentum, because that car is going to stop at some point, right? Now, we don't know how it's going to stop. We don't know whether it's going to come to a crashing stop against a concrete wall, whether it's going to hit another car, or whether it's going to come to a gradual stop at a stoplight. We don't know that. But what we do know is that right now it has this much momentum, and sometime down the road it's going to have zero momentum. So the impulse is going to be the same no matter how it comes to a stop. Does that make sense? No matter how it stops, whether it stops at the stop sign or whether it comes to the crashing stop into the concrete wall, the impulse, the change in momentum is going to be the same. That's what I call a predetermined impulse. We have no control over it. It's determined by its initial conditions, how heavy it was and how fast it was moving, nothing else. Whenever we stop an object, it's a predetermined impulse. Now the other situation is, and I may have just made this word up, a non-predetermined impulse. Seems like an awfully long word to be real, but whatever, we get the point. The impulse is not predetermined. We control what the impulse is going to be. This occurs when we start an object moving. If you catch a baseball, you're stopping an object, right? If you throw a baseball, you're starting an object. When you catch it, the impulse experienced by the baseball is predetermined. When you throw the baseball, it's not predetermined at all. We can control how much impulse it receives. Okay, if I'm a goalie and I stop a hockey puck, the impulse of that puck is predetermined by how fast it was moving and how heavy it is. But if I take a slap shot, the impulse is not predetermined. I affect how much impulse that it's going to receive. When I stop an object, I don't control the impulse at all. When I start an object, I have complete control over the impulse. Does that make sense? Now, when we have a predetermined impulse, when we're stopping an object, this might be the hockey puck against the goalie pad, or it might be coming to a gradual stop at a stop sign, or whatever. When we're stopping an object, when we have a predetermined impulse, usually the goal is to increase the stopping time. Let me give you a couple numbers here so that you can see why that would be the case. An object is stopping, and let's say it experiences an impulse of 10. 10 what? Newtons seconds, kilonewtons seconds, whatever, doesn't matter. 10 units of impulse. Let's say the stopping time is 2 seconds. Got it? What's the force going to be? 5, right? 5 times 2 is 10. Got it? The force would be 5 in that case. Think about this. If I'm stopping the object and I can increase the amount of time that it takes to stop the object to, let's say, 5 seconds, the impulse will still be 10. But if I increase the time to 5, what's the force become? 2. Look at what I've just done. By increasing the time that it takes to stop, I've decreased the force. Impulse doesn't hurt you. Like when you're in an airplane, the momentum of that airplane is unbelievably high. Well, it's going to be zero. It's going to experience an astronomical amount of impulse, but that doesn't hurt you. If the plane stops quickly, that hurts you. Well, maybe not actually, but because it might be pretty instant. But if the plane stops quickly, that's when you experience injury. Because when the plane stops quickly, a small amount of time means a bigger amount of force. It's force that hurts. It's not impulse that hurts. It's force that hurts. This is one of two main principles behind everything out there, period, that cushions an impact. Everything that cushions an impact. Okay, from me catching a baseball. Who plays baseball here? Okay, when you catch a baseball, like you might not even think about this, but you don't hold your arm out rigidly like this, right? You kind of cradle a little bit, right? Why? That increases, yes, it does, but why? Because it increases the time that it takes to stop the ball. And what does that do to the ball? It decreases the force on the ball. When you catch a basketball, okay, you don't just like you cradle it, even with it, like it's instinct, right? But why do you do that? Because it increases the time that it takes to stop, which decreases the force, which makes it easier to stop. Anybody ever been in a car crash here where the airbag went off? No? Good. You know that airbags inflate so quickly, like crazy quick. They inflate so quickly that they're actually in the process of deflating by the time your head ever hits it. There's holes around an airbag. It's not sealed like a balloon is. There's holes around it. So it inflates ridiculously quickly, and then the air starts going out the holes, and it's deflating before your head ever gets there. Do you know why that's the case? Imagine if the airbag is coming towards you like this when your head hits it, versus the airbag is going away from you like this when your head hits it. What effect does that have? It increases, yes, it cushions. But let's talk about physics here. It increases the stopping time, of your head, which decreases the force on your head. Even a hockey helmet, right? Hockey helmet works on a couple principles, actually. Football helmet, same thing, right? Works on a couple principles. One, when you get hit by a puck or hit by somebody else in the head, it spreads the force out over a bigger area, so it's not concentrated in one spot. That's an important physics principle, not one that's really relevant to us in Physics 30, though. The other one is that the foam inside the helmet increases the time that it takes the puck to stop, which decreases the force of the puck on your head. Does that make sense? This will be, when you guys write your exam on June 25th, that will be my 50th Physics 30 diploma exam. You guys will be my 50th Physics 30 diploma exam. Oh, it's a celebration, yeah. I bet on at least 40, probably 45 of those exams, this question's been asked. It's almost always there. It may be, how does the hockey helmet keep you from splitting your head open? Or it may be, why do you cradle a baseball? Or it may be, why does a car use an airbag? Whatever it is, the question is something that cushions an impact. The answer is increased stopping time, decreased force. Got it? Like, listen, if it's been on 45 different exams, it's probably been asked 40 different ways. But it's the same question, and it's almost always there, and the answer is always the same. Increased stopping time, decreased force. Whenever you're cushioning an impact, you increase stopping time, decrease force. Unless you want more force, I suppose. That would be the other way around, but not usually. That's not usually the case. Okay, the other one is when we start an object. This would be like a golf ball sitting on a tee. Who's a golfer here? Yeah, are you guys pretty good? No? Okay, is there anybody here that's pretty good at golfing? Baseball? Anybody pretty good at baseball? No? Okay then. Let's pretend for a second we're good at golfing and or baseball. So the golf ball is sitting on the tee, like it's got zero momentum right now. What am I going to do? I'm going to hit it. I'm going to give it momentum. I'm going to give it impulse. That impulse is not predetermined, right? We absolutely control how much impulse the ball receives, right? How do we do that? Force. Yeah, we hit it harder, right? We want to give it more impulse, therefore make the ball go further. We give it more impulse. Or we apply more force. Look at what we're doing here. If we apply more force, that doesn't affect time. That affects impulse. Up here, the force and the time affected each other. Neither one affected the impulse. Down here, if we apply a bigger force, the impulse is greater, right? Hit the ball harder. Like, that's pretty intuitive, right? Having said that, some people who are really, really strong go into the gym and bench press 300 pounds. That's pretty good. That's about 30 pounds more than I can bench press. Did I say 30? Might have been a little bit more than that. Really, really strong people can't necessarily hit a home run in baseball or hit the ball 300 yards in golf. It's force matters, right? What else matters? Like, forget about the equation for a second. What else matters? Technique. Their technique, their form. Good form in baseball or in hockey or in golf requires you to follow through, right? And when you follow, even in basketball, when you're shooting, right? Follow through. When you follow through, what are you doing? Increasing the time of contact. What does that do? That doesn't change the force. It did when we were stopping the object, but not when we're starting. When we're starting the object, increasing the time does what? It increases impulse. True. So there's two ways that we can make the ball go faster and therefore further, right? Hit it harder and hit it properly. Increase the time of contact. Got it? Make sense? Whoops.